Hey there everyone, welcome back to The Budget Sportsman. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. Now I have been doing this Budget Sportsman YouTube channel for almost a year, just a few weeks short of a year, but the very first video I ever put up on this channel was a trail camera check. Now at this almost 1 year mark, I decided I want to do another trail camera video, and this is going to be the highlights, my favorite pictures that I got running my trail cameras in 2018. Now I'm going to tell you right up front that the best buck pictures are going to be at the end, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'll just skip ahead. But don't do that, because I think that you will miss out on some really cool pictures of a lot of other critters, as well as some cool shots of some deer if you skip to the end. So without any further ado, let's get started into the trail camera pictures.
Alright, let's start off with some animals besides deer. We'll get to deer in just a minute, but one of my favorite parts of running a trail camera every year is all the variety of animals that I get on camera that I often don't actually see when I'm out in the woods. And let's start with some pictures of some foxes and coyotes. They're always kind of fun to see. Now this particular fox, it looked like it was about ready to pee on my mineral block here. I wish the video had lasted just a second or two longer. It quit right as he looked like he was about ready to go pee on my mineral block. Of course, there's always a few raccoons every year. This one looks a little bit like he's hobbling along. I'm not sure if that's how they normally walk, but it's interesting to me that it seems like the foxes do like to check out different mineral sites and things like that. So it's always interesting to see them come by and check it out. Now this was interesting. For a few weeks I had a porcupine that was visiting this mineral block, and I don't know what kind of antics was going on, but he visited frequently, and I think he did more damage to my mineral block for a while than the deer did. Now this is really neat and kind of rare where I live. This is a bobcat, and it's the first time in a long time I've gotten a bobcat on camera. I might get one a year on camera. Certainly this year it was the only picture I got of a bobcat. I always love getting pictures of bears. I think I got bears on camera a couple times this year, and this was one time when 2 or 3 bears came by at this particular time. Now one of the things that I got in this past year that I don't ever remember getting pictures of before, but I got it several times this past year, was a fisher. I got pictures of a fisher in multiple different places throughout the year on multiple different dates. So it was really neat to kind of just throughout the year see them. In this particular video here, if you look on the left side of the video, you'll see that there's actually 2 of them playing. And this is probably the only time I've ever got them in daylight, but there's actually 2 of them playing over around that tree. And again, continued on through the year. This is September, around the same area as the last video. And then this is a totally different location in October that I got several times, the picture of the fisher as well. Now it's always neat to see pictures of turkeys showing up as well, especially when it's near you hunt turkeys. Now this year I got a ton of pictures in the spring right before turkey season. Then as turkey season rolled around, it seemed like the turkeys kind of started to fade away. Now it's always neat when you capture a picture of them strutting, but this video was definitely one of the highlights of my year, catching this video of a strutting turkey right in front of the camera. You don't even see any hens around, but I'm sure they were there, but it's really neat to see him strutting his stuff there. Now let's move on to the deer pictures. One of my favorite things about running trail cameras is always sort of the unique and interesting pictures that you get, like this one looking straight into the camera, just like, what in the world is this? And here's a video of another deer doing a very similar thing, kind of sniffing at the camera, which, although it's funny, I would prefer the deer did not know my camera was there. Another thing that I enjoy is when you see deer doing things that you wouldn't always necessarily get to see them do out in the wild, or you would rarely see them do. In this case, I was having a mineral block out, and it was interesting to watch them really fight over the minerals, and pretty fun to watch. I threw this clip in here just to show you the number of deer. This is very rare for us to see during hunting season, this many of deer together, but in early May, the deer were definitely bunched up and definitely hitting that mineral block. And I think at one point I counted a video with maybe 12 different deer in. Here's another one that had a lot of deer going by, just really interesting. And they're not all even hitting the mineral block. A lot of them are browsing and looking for other food sources as well. Of course, another thing that I always enjoy about running trail cameras, especially in the spring, is getting a couple of pictures of the new fawns, and that's always fun to see. All right, now let's get into the buck pictures, what you've all been waiting for. And what I want to do is I want to walk you through a couple of bucks here that I was able to watch them grow throughout the summer, and even had encounters with both of these bucks during the hunting season. The one on the left you can see started off with good mass, and turned out to be a nice, for Pennsylvania, a nice 8-point. And the one on the right turned out to be a really goofy 3-point. Let's watch them as they grow. It was really neat for me to do that and see them progress throughout the year. This is that same goofy one that turned out to be a 3-point. You can start to see that on his right side, or as we're looking at him, the left side. He has some kind of a weird growth where the antler didn't come straight up. It kind of came out and around. And this is the other one that turned out to be an 8-point, and again you can see that they're together there as they're growing. Now we're into July, the middle of July, and starting to put on a lot of length, especially that 3-point, and the 8-point is starting to be more defined in the number of points he's going to have as well. There you can see that 8-point starting to widen out, and you can see the goofy 3-point in the background there by the tree on the right side. Now this picture here is July 31st, but this time I had to remove the mineral block to get ready for hunting season, and so at this point I wasn't getting consistent pictures of these two bucks. So these are the last pictures of these bucks that I got for quite a while. But the interesting thing about it is you can definitely see that the bigger one there is going to be an 8-point. You can see the 3 points on the other one. But if you look in the background of this picture, you actually can see another buck that I have no idea what buck that is. I hadn't seen them running with these other two bucks before, but it's kind of looks like a nice buck back there as well. Now let's move ahead a little bit here and show some of the other pictures I did end up getting of these bucks later in the season. Now this buck here is kind of difficult to tell for sure, but I believe it might be that same 8-point. Now this over here are some videos that my dad got on his trail camera, and we're pretty sure this is for sure the same 8-point. And he got him multiple different occasions walking by this particular location. Not sure what happened here, but this deer definitely spooked as he walked by the trail camera. But I believe that's this same 8-point. Now, I did have an encounter with this 8-point during archery season. Unfortunately, he busted me and I wasn't able to get a shot, but it was interesting to have an encounter. My dad also had at least one or maybe two encounters with that buck as well. Now, here's a picture I got of the 3-point. When I first got this picture, I thought it was a broken antler on the left there, or the deer's right side. But actually, as it turned out, if you look closer, what that really is that's that goofy 3-point where he didn't quite grow normally, kind of grew out and then up. I actually had an encounter with this buck as well, I believe. He's not legal to shoot in Pennsylvania, but I saw him at a distance, and the same morning I saw the 8-point actually, and I also saw him on another morning where he was walking straight down the trail toward me. Now let's go on to my hunting in Ohio this year, and let's compare, because that 8-point that I just showed you is really the biggest buck that I got on trail camera this year in Pennsylvania. In Ohio, this buck you're looking at right now, which is a 9-point, I was getting consistently just before archery season. I thought I might have a crack at him, and I would have been happy to. It'd be a nice buck that I would be happy to take. Unfortunately, when archery season started, he sort of seemed like he changed his pattern. I was hunting a small 10-acre property there in Ohio, and he changed his pattern. But I want to show you some of the bucks that I got in Ohio as well. There's a nice big boy. Now, on this stealth cam, this was a camera that my friend was running, and he did not have the date set correctly, so these dates are not correct. This would have been probably in late October, early November when this picture was taken. This buck here is interesting. I actually had an opportunity at this buck in Ohio, and I dropped my rangefinder. If you were following along in the video of my hunt in Ohio, you would have seen me tell that story. But I actually got him on camera on this camera, and also in this video. This was actually taken just shortly after I had an opportunity at him, as he walked out of my area and walked up over the hill. Not really spooked, but just certainly going to leave the area. Now, this buck is a really interesting buck to me. I got him on camera a lot in just a short period of time in Ohio. But it's interesting on his left side there as he faces away from us, just the way his claw shape is. And he almost has the appearance to me of a mule deer a little bit. But certainly a white-tailed deer, of course, but just kind of a unique rack. I got him quite a few times. This buck I think is really interesting. Again, notice on the stealth cam the date is wrong, but still notice that this was taken according to the camera on the 9th. This is a really wide buck. Looks like it's a 6-point. Nice and wide, kind of curves in. This is on the 9th according to the camera. And then on the 10th, look, I'm almost positive this is the same buck, but you can see that on his right side, our left, that one of his antlers got broken off just in that one day, between one day and the next. And then I actually got a video of him as well. I did actually see this buck while hunting, probably 70, 80 yards away, much too far for any kind of a shot. But kind of cool that I could start tracking different bucks just in the short period of time I was hunting Ohio. Let me just throw in a couple of other decent-looking bucks here I got in Ohio. It was kind of amazing to me the number of good bucks that I had in Ohio in comparison to the number of good bucks that I get in Pennsylvania. Certainly it was a different buck population there where I was hunting in Ohio. It was also interesting to me that some of these big bucks were moving during daylight. Of course, it was the rut, and they were certainly cruising during daylight. This buck, this time is correct, was cruising at 11:25 in the morning. Again, another nice buck cruising just before noon in early November. Now, the last thing I want to show you is this buck here. This buck was gotten on, again, my friend's trail camera as well as my trail camera. Two different pictures of him. And when I saw this particular picture right here, I freaked out. I thought, wow, that is a gorgeous buck. Well, as it turned out, I never thought I'd see him in daylight. I never thought that I would get an opportunity at him. But on November 13th, he came by cruising a doe. I got a shot at him and ended up taking that buck. So it was really neat to not only take the nicest buck I've ever taken, but to also have a couple pictures to go with it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those pictures. I was pretty happy with some of the cool shots that I got this year, especially enjoyed some of the big buck pictures and videos that I got in Ohio, and really happy with the way all of that turned out. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and until next time, remember to get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.